What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We are back with our final preview video for this week of the Autumn Nations Cup. This one's going to be Scotland versus France. There's a lot to talk about. I'm going to play as Scotland in the background. France are a really good team on Rugby 20, so this actually might be a bit of a tough game. Let's jump in and talk about the teams announced for this week. Okay, Adam Hastings is going to get us kicked underway, who unfortunately won't be making this week's Autumn Nation Cup game. Well, seeing as we're playing as Scotland, let's talk about Scotland first. Scotland had what I would say was probably a bit of a shaky start to this Autumn Nations Cup. Their game against Italy wasn't the most clinical, I would say. There were a lot more mistakes than I was expecting, considering how well I felt they played against Wales in that final game of the Six Nations and how well they were playing against Georgia. I thought they were going to have removed all of these little niggly issues they were having, and they were going to go up to Italy and they were just going to give them a good smashing. But Italy played very, very well in that game. It's a shame we won't be getting to see Italy versus Fiji this weekend, which is, unfortunately, they're going to have called that game off already. I had to do a quick video on that if anyone wants to check that out. But I don't think we've seen the best from this Scottish team. Obviously, they are riding a couple of injuries. They are still missing Adam Hastings and Finn Russell, which means they aren't at full kilter. However, Duncan Weir had a very good game last week and was doing quite impressively. So let's look at this team for this week. Facing France, Scotland's biggest game. There's a couple of changes to the front row here. Ollie Kebble, who was an absolute machine in the last game. He came on from the bench and just sort of dominated. I was really impressed with this lad. He's a big fella. He's a big unit. I wouldn't want to tackle him myself. He's going to do really well. Fraser Brown is coming now. Stuart McAnally's out injured after that first game they had, and Simon Bergen to finish off. It's a very strong front three. I think they know France are going to want to have a good scrumming this game, and coming off of that first game they had against Italy, where really their forwards weren't doing the most impressive work, I think they'll be looking for some improvements there, but a good front three. Number 4 and 5, Scott Cummings and Johnny Gray. It's a solid lock partnership. They tend to enjoy this partnership of Cummings and Gray. They do work very well together. It's a tried and tested method. They played all right, actually, against Italy, so they're doing fine. Jamie Ritchie, Hamish Watson and Matt Fagerson. What a back row that is. Jamie Ritchie's come back, which I was surprised about. He went off very early in that first game. I didn't know if he was going to be back in time for this game. Jamie Ritchie's back, along with Hamish Watson, the duo of jacklers, as I like to think of them. They are very, very good at their job at just turning that ball over and getting some ball retention for their team, as well as being big power runners. Matt Fagerson, though, at number 8, which is interesting. I did think Blade Thompson would come in, but they haven't gone for him. They've gone for Matt Fagerson. Again, a big lad. I'm sure he'll do some good carries off the back of the scrum. Looking at the backs, Ali Price, Duncan Weir, the partnership that worked relatively well, I thought, last week. Duncan Weir came out very, very strong, actually. He's not been in an international scene for a long time. He's got his crazy hairdo that I love. I was very impressed, to be honest, with both of them. Ali Price is in really good form at the minute, and I would definitely say he's probably Scotland's best scrum half at this given time. Duncan Weir's coming in well at third choice fly half and is showing off he actually deserves that shirt, and I feel a bit of a shame for him, because I think as soon as Adam Hastings or Finn Russell is better, they'll probably just replace him immediately, which is a bit of a shame, because I think Duncan Weir is playing very well and is showing off he has a great level of skill. Looking at this back five, well, didn't Duhan van der Merwe have a really good game against Italy? He was one of the few standout players for me. He was absolutely everywhere. He just wouldn't stop working. He was in at the scrums, he was in at the rucks, he was running past people, he was handing off people, he was kicking over the top, he was doing everything. Very, very impressed with that. I'm looking to see a lot more from him. It's going to be a bit of a shame. I think Blair Kinghorn has lost that left wing now to Duhan van der Merwe. I don't think anyone's really going to be better in that position for Scotland. Blair Kinghorn has moved now to the right wing. A very versatile player. He can play full-back or either wing, so it'll be nice to see him. I felt a bit sad for Darcy Graham last week. He didn't really get a lot of time on the ball, and any time he did sort of receive the ball, he was immediately met with a wall of Italians trying to attack him. So he hasn't shown off, I think, the best level that he can do. In fact, he hasn't even made this 23 team. But Blair Kinghorn is a solid player. He's going to be going on that right wing. He's a big lad to stop. He's going to be doing well. Sam Johnson, Chris Harris is their centre duo. Again, it's what they tend to enjoy doing. They're both very good players. They both know how to do their job very well. And of course, Stuart Harger, that 15 shirt, always going to be their captaincy as well. Played well against Italy. I'm expecting him to be counter-attacking against France if he can manage to get the ball. I'm expecting France not to give him too much. Quick look at the replacements. George Turner, Jamie Batty and Xander Fagerson. It's a good set of lads to go into that front three. They're going to obviously believe France are going to want to bring a strong forward pack, especially in scrums. They're bringing the big boys in. Sam Skinner, Blade Thompson is there, but didn't manage to retain that number 8 shirt straight from the off. Sam Hidalgo Klein, who was actually very, very good from the last time I saw him, was not a name I knew of before he was in his last game, but doing very well. Duncan Taylor, who's a name I feel like I haven't heard in a long, long time coming in. It'll be nice to see Duncan Taylor in a Scotland jersey. And to finish it off, Sean Maitland, who again is a bit of a player who's disappeared off the face of the earth. I think those winger positions sort of disappeared for him a little bit. Darcy Graham has been playing very, very well, and I think kept Sean Maitland out of that right-hand wing. Maybe could have been in for a bit of left-wing action, but I think Duhan van der Merwe is going to dominate that number 11 shirt, at least to the end of this tournament, if not going through to the next Six Nations. So Sean Maitland might want to impress. I assume he'll come on in the second half, probably in place of Blair Kinghorn, but I'll be looking forward to seeing him. Overall, a very solid Scottish pack. They know they're going to be coming up against a France that are going to be looking forward to win. Obviously, France has had some big news, so we'll look into it now. Let's have a look at what this France team has to offer this game. So France have missed their first game. Technically, they went up against Fiji and the match got cancelled. And then less than a week later, they announced that actually France had won that game 28-0. That came as a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. So France had a lot going into this. I actually made a video about that I thought they could actually win this tournament. I thought it would be France versus England in the final. And a lot of people were really helpful. They pointed out in comments something that I didn't know was that the French leagues weren't going to release their main starting 15 international players. There was a whole deal set up with their international and their leagues that they weren't going to let them play more than 4 games, I think it was. That was before the end of the Six Nations. So it meant that France were going to be bringing this team in really to play 1 game in this tournament. The sources say that basically they were going to play their full team versus Fiji, and then they were going to play some sparser teams against Scotland and Italy. They seem to have been able to get a bit lucky with the fact they've missed that Fiji game, so they've been able to bring in a really big team versus this Scotland team. There was talk about whether they would put on a half and half of experienced players and B team for this, to keep half of their experienced players for the Italy game. But I'll chuck the France team on screen for you now. I've had to make my own little graphic made up of their graphic because it was huge, the thing they made. So I'll chuck it on screen here so that you guys can see. As you can see, they have gone for a very big French pack here, actually. They haven't really gone for any B team members here. Looking at the forwards, Gross, Chat and Bamba is 3 very, very experienced players. They know that scrum's going to be a big area. I think both teams are loading that forward front 3 with heavy, heavy boys. I actually think I would probably recommend this French front 3 overall. Bamba, a player that I absolutely love, just like a rhino, just charges through players. Hasn't got the best skill level really, but he's great at going forwards. The locks, LaRue, doing really well. And Tau Fifenawa, I apologise for the pronunciation, I'm terrible at pronouncing names, is an absolute giant of a man. He is 6'7" or something ridiculous like that, and you see it immediately when they line up to do their anthems. He is the tallest man on the pitch. He's an absolute machine. He's doing very well in lineouts. I think he's going to be a bit of an issue for the Scottish lineouts. Cretin, Aldrit and Olivon are going to be finishing that back row. That is a very experienced 6-7-8 combo. Olivon doing brilliantly in the Six Nations, along with Aldrit, actually, for both of them doing turnovers, and Olivon for getting something ridiculous, like he was like the 3rd highest try scorer or something in the Six Nations, which feels bonkers for a number 7 to ever belong there. But what a front pack there for France. They think that scrum and maul. I can see the whole Scotland-France game being a forward-dominated event. I don't know how much is going to be going to the backs. They might just want to outpower each other. Obviously, Scotland did beat them in the Six Nations, and I think they'll be wanting a bit of revenge for this one. Let's have a look at the French backs. Dupont back in. There was talk about whether Serin would take this one, and Dupont would go first against Italy. They obviously want their experienced leader in a number 9 to have Dupont on. He's having a great tournament. He's in really good form at the minute. I expect him to have a really, really good game. Jalibert has taken number 10. Reason for this is Entomac is out after the Fiji game. He's gone back to his club level and got injured in his game, which I think has actually ruled him out of this tournament. Jalibert, a much younger player than probably a lot of fly halves that you'd want on, but very good actually. We only saw him from a little bit earlier on this year, but he's got some pretty good accuracy in terms of kicking in the pitch. Manages to find grass more often than not. He's not going to be quite as wily as Entomac, which is a bit of a shame. And then this back line, Rattez, Ficou, Vakatawa, Teddy Thomas, Ramos. I mean, that is the French backline as it has been through most of the Six Nations. All of them absolutely rapid, full speed attack. Not an awful lot of power necessarily, bar Vakatawa is probably the extenuating circumstance there, but certainly a fast backline. I can see an awful lot of this game being played in the forwards. In terms of their finishers, again, just big names there really. Marchand, Villamis, they're got a lot going on for them. I think they're going to be loading this forward pack for this game. Who else really stands out there? Maybe Vincent would come on in the second half, probably late in the game, just to re-inject that level of pace. But overall, I think as a French team, this is looking very, very solid. I was expecting France to be wanting to put out the biggest team they could to face Scotland, knowing that this game for me is going to be the decider for who wins their Conference B group, really, to me. I see Scotland going to put up a really good fight with this, but I believe France will probably be able to beat this one just with how strong they've gone with their team. Whether they'll be able to beat Italy, actually, with a B team France versus what Italy are actually doing very well at the minute against that Scotland team, where they were really hanging on and they actually led for an awful lot of that game, and I'm wondering whether a B team French side could actually beat that. That is, of course, believing the idea that the leagues aren't going to let them play any more games. Obviously, that rule could change at any time and they could just let the French team continue, especially if they believe they're going to win this tournament. I don't know why they want to hold them back. Why would you not want to represent your nation a little bit more in the rugby? But overall, I think France are going to take this one. My prediction for this game is going to be France, and I actually think it's going to be a bit more comfortable than people think. I'm going to say France to win by 18 points. I think they'll get 2 extra tries. I think the first half will be quite boring. I think it's going to be a whole bunch of forwards doing a lot of rucks and a lot of scrums and no one really scoring an awful lot of points. And then it will break out into the backs in the second half and might just end up being a bit of a try-fest. But overall, I think France probably have the depth there, especially with some of the rapid players they've got in that starting 15 to score a whole bunch of tries. So I expect them to score well. And Jalibert is actually quite a good percentage kicker towards the posts. I know Ntamak is a big loss for them not to have, and they won't have quite a wily fly half as they would probably like. But I think looking at this French team, I believe they're probably going to be able to take this one. I'm looking forward to a really good game, and it's such a shame this is already going to be the end of this weekend's rugby. I have done the prediction videos for the other games that are already on if you want to go check that out on the channel. But what do you guys think? Who do you think is going to take this one? Is this going to be a Scottish win? Is this going to be a France win? Will we see a recreation of what happened in the Six Nations, or are France going to come back and just dominate this game? I'm loving that you guys are dropping down in the comments all your thoughts and stuff. I'm loving getting some dialogue going, getting some opposing views on different things in the rugby world. It's been a really nice experience following this tournament so far and having all of you guys involved. If you've enjoyed this series, or if you've enjoyed this video on a whole, make sure you drop it a like. It is really appreciated. And if you are enjoying all of these prediction videos that I'm doing for not just the Autumn Nations Cup, I did do them for the Six Nations, so I'll probably do them in the following Six Nations. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date with all of our latest videos as they're coming up. I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. I will see you next time. Bye bye.